Everybody, welcome to this episode of Coffee with John. Sorry, I changed the name of my podcast, Fabian. Old habits. Um, Fabian Calvo, it's great to have you. CEO of BoomRx, streamlining prescriptions, fulfillment for patients. I kind of want to dive into what you do because your business has been taking off. It's a year old, and I think it also kind of shows the power of how you can start, launch, and really build a big business in a year in today's world, with technology, with people, with the right idea, with something that people need that is a pain that you offer a solution. Tell me a little bit about your business and how over the past year, as we record, this will be June 2026, what you had to do over the last year to build your business.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate it. And good to be with you,
Yeah.
John. So BoomRx, I'm actually the CEO of WellSync. BoomRx is an asset of a company called WellSync. We built it out last July. And what we realized was that medical clinics, really med spas, that if you think about med spas are becoming almost the center point for the longevity, WellSpan space that we all kind of read about or hear about often. And that process used to be very archaic for these medical clinics, meaning they would have they had a problem, which was they had a whole front staff that would have to use several different pharmacy portals to order medications for their patients. And what we realized was, wow, what if we streamline this and simplify it for them? So we knew what the problem was. We created a solution that allowed one person at a clinic input the medications that their providers, doctors, right, would be prescribing, and those all get delivered right to the patient's doorstep. So it was the adoption rate has been really has exceeded our expectations. We started with 0 clinics. A little under a year, we've got over 10,000 clinics that are ordering now, and are starting to work with electric health record companies. And I'm grateful for the team. I mean, a lot of this has been a team effort and having the right people that understood the market and putting it together. But I think it shows that there's always different tools and different ways to help a variety of different industries grow and have their own success as well. And we're glad that we're part of that.
So when you looked at your business model, because to me, and I see this, I'm a business coach and I walk into companies and work with people all the time where, the topic of discussion is addition by subtraction, taking away the friction, reverse engineering to simple. Those are a lot of themes that I work with companies on. And so as you looked at the market with your lens and said, okay, we can streamline simplicity. We can make this a simpler process. I'm not surprised to hear that the adoption rate is high because you took out friction. You made it simpler in a world where people need simple because they're too distracted. And so what did you see that others didn't? Because sometimes it's like you make something simpler and people think, why didn't I think of that? It was hidden in plain sight. Right. What lens were you looking at the business, and then what did you do to take out friction?
Yeah, so I think in particular with healthcare, right? It's an industry that is rapidly changing, and to the point I mentioned earlier, where you have really almost post COVID, John. What we noticed was a lot of individuals wanted to take more. Be more proactive around their health, right? And the typical kind of insurance-backed model of you see your doctor once a year, you get a blood panel. People wanted more, and believe it or not, the place where they get more is these med spas that usually started with like aesthetics, right? Yeah. Fillers and that's expanded to comprehensive blood panels and a peptide formulary and HRT programs that they now offer their patients. So we realized, I think that was one of the big realizations that we said, well, okay, so we know that these clinics are now going from a kind of real niche type service and really expanding their product offering. So what we decided is, let's find, and we knew what that consisted of, right? Like I mentioned earlier, kind of a chaotic thing, right? So how do we streamline this for them? And so, um, you know, we're lucky we have a really talented team of developers that were able to put together this BoomRx portal, and it's just it's taken off. I mean, again, a typical med spa, if you think about, they had a couple people in the front office. They're trying to book new people to come in. They're dealing with clients that are there. They're having to manage this kind of old, archaic, 1980s form of ordering prescriptions for their patients. And now we've just completely streamlined that. I mean, and it's also great. We built a product that people absolutely love, so yeah.
How are you using AI in your business today?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of it is kind of predictive, in the sense of what providers are going to be prescribing based upon certain ailments that an individual that comes to a clinic may present. It's helping us also with our supply chain as well, right? Making sure we have the necessary drugs ready to deploy and based on demand. So there's a variety of different ways, but those are probably two of the biggest. And we just brought on board a few weeks ago, really someone that's whole specialty is AI, and understanding that a lot of this is going to help continue to streamline this process and remove even more friction.
Yeah. Where do you think your business will be in 3 years? This is a very difficult question, but where do you think it'll be in 3 years with the AI tools that will continually, be coming out week after week over the next 3 years?
Yeah, I think quite frankly, it's only going to help, right? So really, and it's also kind of the time that we're in right now. I mentioned health span, longevity, people realizing this market of peptides and the kind of the therapeutic benefits of those medications, not really knowing a lot. So I think a couple different ways. One is from an educational perspective. I think AI will allow us to streamline educating both providers and patients that are really unaware and oftentimes are kind of led down the rabbit hole of these kind of gray market websites where they really don't know what's what. So from an educational perspective, I think AI will be really, really beneficial. That's point number one, and it's also going to allow us to build new products, right? So right now we're in medical clinics. We're soon expanding into gyms and a variety of other, anywhere that there's a customer base that is in that fitness health span type of community. I think that we can create products that will allow those individuals to access safe, reliable medications with pedigreed providers that could write those prescriptions.
Yeah. That's great. A lot of people, I think, want to start their own business in today's world. They want more freedom. I've read stats ranging from 3 to 10,000 a day of LLCs that get registered versus 1,000 pre-COVID in the United States. And so there seems to be a lot of people. I think a large percentage of those start, a large percentage of do not start, because I think once you get an LLC, then the work begins. And so if you were teaching a master's class right now on starting a business, what would 1 to 3 things be in order of importance to think about when starting a company?
That's a great question, John. What just comes to mind right away is keep going, right? I mean, one of the things about BoomRx, I'll tell you, and WellSync as a whole, is it's completely vertically integrated, right? So there's a couple of different companies involved, both that I'm an owner and founder of, which are the pharmacy network, right, and then the drug wholesaler, right, that imports all of these active ingredients from overseas. Most of them come from overseas to make these medications, right? So we own that entire supply chain. I bring that up because 4.5 years ago, we recognized there was a need for safe, effective, active pharmaceutical ingredients to come in from overseas. And we started that business with $32,000, right? Now, some people may not be like, wow, I don't have $32,000, but I'm just making the point that we realized that there was a problem. And we created a solution with not a whole huge, CapEx investment.
Yeah.
That business last year did 48 million top line revenue, right?
Cool.
So and look, it wasn't easy, right? There was a lot of like hurdles and roadblocks. Where do we go from here? I think it's keep going is number one. Number two is make sure you're in business if you decide to with people that you like, right? If you have partners, make sure it's people that you like, and that when things get tough, you almost get closer, right, to overcome those roadblocks and those obstacles.
And I would also add, make sure you pick the right business partner and don't force a business partnership.
100%, John. That is so true. I've done that in the past, by the way. Never works.
Yeah, it never works. I talk to, I work with solopreneurs to fortune companies and everything in between, executives and owners and managers and salespeople. And many times founders will call me, people who are starting companies, and they'll say, oh, I need to find a partner. I need to find a co-founder. And I was like, why? You have this unbelievable idea. You pick the wrong person because you're in a panic mode. It has the high potential of ruining the idea unless it organically happens. Your thoughts?
100%.
Yeah.
I would add to that too is this idea of like an MVP for a product is kind of a term overused, but I can't think of a better one right now. So you don't have to launch with something that's perfect either, right? Just go out and get some information, test drive it, and see if it works. And then, with BoomRx, right, we're constantly making changes to it, like literally weekly making changes to it, upgrading it, all based on customer feedback, right? And what clinics are telling us. So you don't have to go to market with something that's perfect. What's the old adage, is done is better than perfect. And just get in the game, get in the game.
Right. And the feedback, and today feedback is fast and it's ever changing. The feedback of somebody today is going to be different tomorrow. Patterns are changing so quickly.
That's right.
When you, as you continue to scale and grow your business, what's one headwind that you see that you can already see that you're doing your best to get in front of? I think that's something that sometimes people miss. You have a new company, you start it, it grows very quickly like yours is. And sometimes sometimes people take their eye off of the headwind that is coming right at them. What's a headwind you're looking at and making sure that you plow right through it, and that it's not going to be a surprise or discovery?
Yeah, for us, it's really regulatory, right? Being in healthcare, the regulatory landscape's constantly changing. I think it's important for one to, as best as you can, kind of try to become an expert in whatever it is you're doing. I certainly, approach things with a beginner mind. I don't have all the answers. Be willing to ask for help, which is what we do. We've got talented people on our team that, are looking at potential regulatory changes, how it could affect the business. I had the pleasure 3 months ago. He's no longer the FDA commissioner, but we had to sit down with Marty Markary, and we're able to speak to him for 45 minutes about, potential regulatory changes in the space, right? And it was informative. And so we make changes based upon what we think are those headwinds that you talk about. The other one is, with any business that's rapidly growing, we're grateful that for almost entirely we've self-financed this whole entire business, right? Through the growth of, again, some of the other companies that are involved in this that I'm a participant in. But at some point, maybe not always, John, I'm curious to hear what you have to say, but you're going to need to bring in outside capital, right? If you want to continue to grow. And I think that could potentially be a headwind in when you go to market to raise, knowing that process is going to take a while, where you're going to take money from, the people that are going to be involved, what kind of control, if any, are they going to take over your business? Those are all things to consider. Quality problems, right? But certainly considerations you should make.
And I would add to that, if you can get somebody, if you're at that stage and you can get somebody that actually is going to be investing in you, but also can bring something to the table, help you forecast, bring some wisdom, really understand the business, not just be the money. I think sometimes people will go for the money, but then the person or the company can't necessarily, they don't know the industry or the kind of, they're not reading the tea leaves. So it's, if you can really get in full alignment with that and get the ideal person, that would be great. Let me ask you this: when it comes to you, and you started this business. I mean, you've started multiple businesses. We're just talking about BoomRx today, but being an entrepreneur and starting multiple businesses in multiple lanes, and somebody can check you out on LinkedIn to learn more. What's the biggest thing you've learned about yourself this past year in growing BoomRx?
This is going to sound, could I do non-business related? What the biggest thing I've learned? I'll tell you. For me, the biggest thing has been coming up with, I'll use the term, a self-care lifestyle, putting things like meditation, my personal fitness, the quality time I spend with my family.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, John, those things have that doesn't mean it's been, a lot of work, right?
Right.
But those things have given me a foundation to really just, again, have things like a beginner mind, not think that I have all the answers, be able to develop some sort of kind of intuitive sense about, where the business could go, what the future might look like.
Yeah.
That's been absolutely critical for me.
Yeah.
Right. Is just kind of be able to remove the noise and take care of my, kind of this idea of like put the oxygen mask on first, and then I can go out there and I can deal with the chaos of being an entrepreneur. Right. Because it is chaotic. And, the unicorns of I started a business and a year later, I was a billion, that's just not, I mean, it hasn't been true for me. And, it's probably less than a 0.1% chance of that happening. However, yeah, I think that for me would be the kind of the single point of advice, if anyone asked, that I would give.
Yeah, it's great. First thing I do every day is meditate when I wake up. I think it's so important. And then, just kind of like, a minute here, a minute there throughout the day, sometimes longer, just to kind of recalibrate, get back to center. I think it's critical. All right, quick speed round. A book that's made a big impact on you.
I'd say Greatest Salesman in the World.
That's a good one. Oz Magdini, right? Isn't it?
Og Mandino, yeah.
Og Mandino, right. I can remember. Okay. If you could have coffee with anyone living or dead, who would it be and why?
I'd say Nikola Tesla. I'd want to just hear, creative mind, genius, tell me something. Right?
Yeah, I know. Same. I've read a couple of books about Tesla. He was off the charts.
Immigrant who came here, by the way, John, with absolutely nothing. Talk about the American dream story. Yeah,
brilliant. Finish this sentence. One thing everybody should do to tap into their inner entrepreneur is
meditate.
Great. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are, where they can connect with you, learn more, etc.
Yeah, they can go to my LinkedIn profile. Fabian Calvo has different companies that we have, and everything from our direct consumer business Gatlin that is helping one-on-one through concierge medicine, all the way to just our different supply chain and infrastructure that we've built. They can learn more there.
It's great, Fabian. I appreciate you taking time to be on the podcast. Think big community. I'm going to just highlight one thing: keep going. Whether you're in your career, whether you started a business, no matter what, keep going. Not every day is easy, but if you keep going, it gets easier. Difference between person A and B is who gets back to center faster. And to me, and I think Fabian, to you, meditation's kind of the answer for me. We take about 8.6 million breaths a year, and sometimes we're not very intentional about it. Meditation and getting back to our breath can really help people keep going. So I just want to kind of bring it full circle to that. If Fabian can help you guys, reach out to him. If I can help you in any way, reach out to me, johndwoskin.com. Fabian, this was great. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.